we are going to talk about tipping point, and following the very nice presentation by Luciana, we see that we need to expand this concept beyond Amazonia and why it matters. Tipping point are rapid and brutal change that occur in socio-ecological system following the change, a slow change on slow variable, and then the social system or the ecological system reach a certain stage and then flips into a new stable situation, and you have passed the tipping point. And mostly for the last 100 years, tipping point triggered by human are mostly been local. You can think about the eutrophication of a lake, you can think about the collapse of, let's say, going further in the past of the Roman Empire. These were many local. Unfortunately, we are now reaching a stage, let's say since about 1950, which is considered as the beginning of the Anthropocene, which is the geological era where, in fact, the global system are impacted by human action. And since 1950, we seem to see the occurrence of tipping points that are global in nature. And these tipping points, they affect global planetary process, and unfortunately, this is something that we can call the great acceleration. This planetary process, they seem to reach a status closer and closer to their tipping point, and should they pass this tipping point, we'll have problem. And among the planetary process that we can quote or can consider in this tipping point, you can look at the slide, the first slide, and you see that you have indeed the dieback of the Amazonian forest, but you have also the change in ENSO frequency. You have the Sahara regreening, you have the thawing of the permafrost, or you have the Arctic meltdown. And all these tipping points are bad in themselves, should they be passed. The problem is that where we may be in more trouble than we think we are is that, unfortunately, these tipping points are interrelated. So they are not independent. And you can see on the second slide that, for example, the change in the global Atlantic circulation has a very strong impact to the risk created by the Amazonian dieback, at the same time linked to the thawing of the permafrost and the Arctic meltdown. And you can see that this interdependence of tipping point, or this risk of cascading, I mean, one is happening, another one, and okay, the Gulf Stream change, and then you realize that New York is about the same latitude as Madrid, so you will have the same weather in Madrid than you have in New York. And then the Amazon dieback, and then immediately there is another tipping point that is reached in terms of the agricultural land in Uruguay or in Brazil. So these things are very dangerous because they can create cascading effects that will impact the whole basis of the biosphere and our life survival system. So the problem that we have now facing this interdependent tipping point is that if you fix one, it's not enough. You may fix the Amazon dieback, but then you have a problem of the Gulf Stream that you don't fix, and then ultimately you will still have the Amazon dieback. So we need to have collective action, and we need to have collective action on many fronts, and then it becomes a bit overwhelming. I mean, so what can we really do? And that's where we can introduce a new concept that was developed in the literature by Gladwell in 2002, and we call the social tipping point. So how little thing can make a big difference. And these social tipping points, they are based on the same concept as the environmental tipping point. I mean, you have something that evolved in the background, and then suddenly the society reach a point where smoking is not a good thing, so you stop smoking, or where you change your behavior, or you move into electric car. So this social tipping point are our only hope to avoid or to mitigate the environmental tipping point. So what are these social tipping points or social tipping elements? You can look at the third slide, and you see that they are organized in terms of very rapid to long term. And very rapid could be, for example, for the financial market to divest in fossil fuel, or for information in terms of greenhouse gas emissions. So, and then a longer term is a total global, complete societal change in terms of there is a moral implication of not using fossil fuel, or there is an intrinsic value of nature that is not related to the fact that people use it. So these social tipping elements are really the only way we can consider in terms of addressing the issue of interdependent environmental tipping point. And for that, we need a change. We need several paradigm changes. And I think that we cannot walk in the street with our head covered in ashes and signaling the doomsday to everybody and being the prophets of doom. We have a moral obligation to remain optimistic and to try to do something, because the future is not something written on a piece of paper. The future is what we do. And this is where a movement like the Global Landscape Forum can make a change. And this is a change that could be triggered by all of you, by all of us. And I believe very much that the Global Landscape Forum can become a significant social tipping element that will help us alleviating the risk that we are facing in terms of climate change, biodiversity crisis, social inequalities, and ultimately the survival of our own civilization. Thank you very much.